The Sam Rayburn Dam and Reservoir is located approximately 10 miles northwest of the town of Jasper in the heart of the Piney Woods region of southeast Texas on the Angelina River. It is the largest man-made lake in Texas and spans across 5 counties. One of those counties, Nacogdoches County, is the site of our story today. Back on August 10th, 2007, a local man would discover the bodies of Super Dave Mitchamore and his girlfriend, Christie Brown. The case and the story would begin to gain traction in the media when it was discovered that Super Dave Mitchamore was a high-ranking member of the ABT, better known as the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas.
It's supposed to be a brotherhood. That's what it started out to be.
The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas was formed in the Texas prison system in the early 1980s.
We were seeing our own kind punked out, treated like just white folks didn't stick together. We stuck with our own inside. And of course, anything you have inside any gang, you're going to get out. You know, when you get out, and a couple of you get together and you start doing this and that, and it grew. It was all about business. Drugs, prostitution, sold a lot of drugs. A lot of females. We were up and down 35. If you ran up 35, pulled in one of them motels, you bought anything extracurricular, money went in my pocket.
It wasn't uncommon to have really about $70,000 a week in cash.
They had a constitution which essentially laid out everything that this particular group does in terms of the rank structure, in terms of what their beliefs are, in terms of everything from what happens when someone is disciplined to what doesn't happen when someone is disciplined. They have different levels of discipline.
Back in the day, we would get tattoos of our shield. If you didn't held up, you didn't held up. When you got eggs back then, I'd come peel your patch off of you. So if you've got it tattooed on you, you can imagine I'm going to skin a chunk of your side.
Robberies, pounds of methamphetamine going up and down I-20, credit card fraud, it's all murders. Obviously, it's kidnapping. They talk about kidnapping between each other like it's nothing. Like having somebody in the closet is nothing to them. Murder, if it's ordered, it's nothing to these guys. They're so loyal. And I think that's the scariest part, is how loyal they are, and you don't cross them.
Get in, Georgia.
Violence to each other, mostly a lot to each other. They would keep picking each other off one by one.
Clearly, they're a very violent group, and in order to instill discipline within the organization, they need to ensure that they can go out and commit violence against each other.
Look at me.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you something.
Oh, yes, sir.
You hear me?
Yes, sir.
If you ever say Aryan Brotherhood of Texas or Colorado, we'll kill you.
So they use that to kind of set an example for others that are thinking about perhaps swaying or straying from their blind faith commitment to the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. A blind faith commitment is a document that a prospect signs stating, in fact, that he is going to be a member of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, and it's a commitment that you take for life. There was a homicide in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Breonna Taylor in 2006.
She was tortured, and ultimately she was dismembered and put in a plastic bathtub filled with Quikrete and dumped in Lake Ray Hubbard.
There was no way. Things got so carried away, there was no way she could. Once things got out of hand, it was the only way it could end.
When we all were briefed on this particular homicide from the folks from Dallas, we all knew that something had to be done about the ABT after hearing what happened to Breonna Taylor. In the summer of 2008, I was targeting an armed career criminal who we believed was providing silencers and firearms to the Bandito outlaw and motorcycle gang. In the course of executing a search warrant at this individual's residence, we obtained a number of different firearms, and in doing so, he was looking at a mandatory prison sentence of 15 years or more. It wasn't long before he decided he wanted to cooperate with us, and in doing so, he said that not only did he know some leaders within the Bandito outlaw motorcycle gang, but he also knew the general of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. One of the things that the ABT would typically do every month is they would hold what they call church meetings. And in these church meetings, what would occur is they would discuss their criminal activity, they would collect dues for the organization, and they would discuss gang business.
A big part of this case was built on the development and cultivation of confidential informants.
Someone would become a CI for multiple reasons. Maybe they're pending charges, for one. And the other reason is some do it for financial reasons. So a confidential informant, if he's actually in these church meetings, could do a number of different things. One, he can record what was happening. And secondly, he can come back. If he wasn't recording, he could tell us exactly what was being said by the leaders within the organization.
Kicked in my hotel room door to charge me with identity theft, prostitution. I mean, the list could have went on and on and on. And he wouldn't about telling me that's exactly what they were going to do. He says, look, I need you to talk to these people. And it was the FBI. And I was like, oh, that's when it got real.
So you always want to make sure that your CI's identity is never disclosed, or that the ABT, in this particular case, doesn't know who your CIs are.
If I was a snitch, that he would torture me himself. He would kill me himself, and that he would spend hours torturing me first.
The ABT confidential informants, for example, a lot of them are hooked on methamphetamine. And you can't really be a confidential informant if you're using narcotics.
If I wasn't using and showing that I was doing drugs, they wouldn't have trusted me.
We went after all the generals. There were 5 generals within the ABT.
Just went through the back fence.
We also indicted a number of majors and captains and essentially all leaders within this organization.
It was the first time in law enforcement history that the RICO had been used to take down the entire leadership of a prison gang that had a nationwide presence.
We had 73 indictments. Of those 73 indictments, 100% were convicted.
I believe that their command and control capabilities have been severely diminished. They'll continue to do what they do, and obviously we'll continue to do what we do.
It's non-existent on the streets. I mean, you have a few that have tried to step up and step into but there's nothing. I mean, the head's cut off.
She's a green light on me, and she just find me and kill me. Pretty much at all costs. No matter where, I will be in fear my whole life.
He told me they'll be coming for me. And I told him straight up that when they do, just like the last time they did, that when you send somebody slick, you better send somebody this time.
14 men are currently facing federal charges tonight.
Yeah, the men were arrested as part of an investigation into the activities of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. Our John Rapolo has been following this story all afternoon, joins us now in the newsroom in our studio, actually, with more. John, what do you got?
Yeah, hey, Lascano, you know, we got our hands on this federal indictment this afternoon. In it, it says the 14 arrested were all local and engaged in criminal activity dating back to the mid-90s. One Corpus Christi man right there is still on the run tonight. He is identified as 47-year-old Johnny Glenn Voiles, seen here. The Department of Justice believes he is somewhere in the Houston area. Now, the men are facing life in prison for charges ranging from murder, drug trafficking, racketeering, extortion, and illegal possession and distribution of drugs. Now, this is the second raid this week involving federal officers in Corpus Christi. The raid today happened in the 7400 block of Whisper Wind Drive. Helicopter was seen flying around the area at 7:30 a.m. Federal agents were seen going into a home, and a source telling Action 10 several local gang members were taken into custody. The other federal raid happening on Tuesday morning in the area around David and Headley Streets. Sources telling us these two raids could be related to this federal indictment, but Action 10 News has not confirmed if the two raids are indeed connected. Now, today's arrests are an attempt to break up the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. All of those 14 men are being detained at this hour. Federal officials say they operated by using threats of violence, operating not only here in South Texas, but indeed throughout the Lone Star State. They are facing life in prison if they are convicted. We're live in the studio. John Rapolo, Action 10 News.
The focus is now on a white supremacist prison gang and the investigation into the deaths of a Compton County, Texas district attorney and his wife. Officials say last weekend's double murder may be linked to the recent murders of other law enforcement officials. Federal, state, and local investigators are looking into the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. A former Texas prison warden says the group has a long history of violence and retribution. There's now unprecedented security for law enforcement officials across the state. Colorado court officials have apologized after confirming the alleged killer of the state's corrections director was released early from prison. Officials confirm Evan Ebel was released from prison 4 years early due to a clerical error. The court says Ebel had pleaded guilty to assaulting a prison guard. Ebel was supposed to get a consecutive sentence of up to 4 years, adding to his existing prison sentence, but he was released early.
Several accused of being part of a white supremacy group will go before a Hays County judge tomorrow. 18 people were indicted on a range of charges in a Central Texas crime ring bust. Investigative reporter Erica Proffer tells us what these accusations mean for those involved.
If digging through years of video could give you a clue, the racist group Aryan Brotherhood generally stays out of the news.
The typically quiet members of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, or ABT, made a big stir in Williamson County last week.
This is from a story we aired in 2010 when we explained how the Texas branch of the Aryan Brotherhood formed.
A little bit over 83, something like that, here in the Alston area.
Federal investigators say the group follows a white supremacist belief system with, quote, murderist and racist ideology within Texas prisons. The Texas group formed in the 1980s. And a recent Central Texas bust shows the gang still runs today. 11 of the 18 suspects are in custody, accused of organized criminal activity. San Marcos police said the group stole equipment from construction sites, burglarized buildings, and took goods from vehicles. Investigators say the goods would be sold for cash or meth at a fraction of the property value. At least one, William Shane Lawrence, is a convicted felon, and detectives say they seized multiple guns at his home.
The numbers in the Austin area remain steady.
What we know about the violent group is listed in this 2013 court record. Court records show a written constitution is distributed to members with a chain of command structure and defined militaristic rank structure. Members attend what is listed as church meetings where criminal activity was discussed. But looking back can only bring a sense of what's to come. We'll know more about this case as it unfolds in court. For the KVUE Defenders, Erica Proffer, KVUE News.
Several of the suspects will be arraigned tomorrow morning. San Marcos police will release additional details on the bust after that arraignment. The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas has one person on the DPS top 10 most wanted list. We'll link to more information about the group online with this story at kvue.com.
Good afternoon. We'll wait till everybody assembles. Okay. Move in as tight as you can.
The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas divided their territory into 5 regions, run very systematically in almost a military-type structure. As I talked about, there were generals and majors, sergeants at arms, and they went through, and you can see on the chart we have here today some of that structure. And I think what's important about this case is that all 5 active generals of each of the regions, one for each of the regions, have been prosecuted, convicted, and will spend long sentences in federal prison. The majors have been taken out. The former founding member has been found guilty. An acting general taking over for one of the generals who was already incarcerated has been arrested and convicted. So this really is the decapitation of this gang. Whether it will continue in some form, as U.S. Attorney Magidson said, we shall see, but what we have seen is a dramatic reduction in ABT-related crimes in this region. Well, as I said in my earlier remarks, the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas began in prison, but
gang violence in our communities affects us all. These 36 were the worst of the worst, from burglaries, robberies, and narcotics trafficking to cold-blooded murder. These are just a few of the violent acts these gang members and their associates have inflicted upon our communities.
En las penitencias federales, uno de los lugares más profundos.
Their presence has been seen here. We have contended with them. We have supported investigations in that regard, and we'll continue to do so. But I think this announcement is a significant one to those who are contemplating their continued membership. Hang it up, or we'll catch you.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Guys, just want to let you guys know, work right now is insane. It is crazy busy. I am in sales. So when work picks up, sometimes I just can't pump out some of the content I want to pump out, but I'm trying. I am getting ready to take a few days off here, and I'm going to be, while I'm gone and while I'm out of town, I'm going to be cranking out some good videos for you guys. Anyway, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to all my supporters. You guys mean everything to me. Been dealing with it the last month and a half. Got sick twice. Work's been crazy busy. My last video, I was super excited to bring you guys about the Nuestra Familia de Norteños. The audio cut off halfway through. It was not on my end. I checked my video. I had the audio turned up. I don't know what happened. I've had it happen one time before. I think something happens with the downloading and the uploading process. It is what it is. We're keeping it pushing. We're going to keep it moving on. Today, we're going to be covering a case with the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, like we talked about in the intro. I got this idea of a story of a great documentary I want you guys to check out. It's on HBO Max. It's on the takedown of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. It just came out a few days ago, I believe, on February 6th. It is amazing. It's a 4-episode series. They cover a couple big cases. This is one of them. This is what gave me the idea. Please go check it out, okay? So we're going to be covering the story of Super Dave Mitchamore and his girlfriend, Christie Brown. Now, Super Dave Mitchamore was a high-ranking and very loyal member of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. I will say this about Dave. What's interesting is some of these pictures I put up of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas members, you go right away, you go, okay, yeah, gang member, fits the part, hell yeah, right? With him, some of the pictures they use, even in the documentary, he's just got a hat on. He looks like a normal dude. But he's not. He's very active. He's a methamphetamine dealer. He's a user. He's got a violent temper. He's got a rap sheet. But he was under the leadership. His general was a guy by the name of Charles Carver, Charles C.C. Carver. Now, talk about normal. And they talk about how Charles Richard C.C. Carver walked around with a cowboy hat on, very, very minimal amount of tattoos. He did not stick out. He did not come across as a gang leader, let alone a general. And to give you an idea, a general is like the highest ranking. There's 5 of them. Okay, so the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, they break it up. There's 5. It was like a wheel back then. Okay, there was 5 generals, and Texas was broken up to them. And at the time of this case, 4 out of 5 were locked up. Okay, and there was one that was out. Charles Carver, obviously, this is the case that ended up putting him away. But, so I should say at the time of Charles Carver's case, he was out. 2 or 3 of them were locked up. The next case, the next video I'm going to be doing is on another, in that series, that HBO Max documentary, they cover basically 2 big stories. The next case, the next video I'm doing is going to be the other story in that documentary. Super interesting. I think you guys are really going to love it. But anyway, back to this. So, Super Dave Mitchamore. He's under the leadership of his general, Carl Richard Carver. Normal guy. Dave even looks like a normal guy. He meets Christie Brown, all right? She had pretty much a normal childhood. She was a mother, normal, but had gone through some things, had trouble with dating. She meets Dave. They hit it off. It's hot and heavy from the jump. But Dave is a methamphetamine dealer. He's a user. Christie Brown is a meth user, and pretty soon they're wrapped up in that world. And things go left pretty quick. So the bodies get discovered back in 2007, August 10, 2007, by the local guy, all right? Now, the investigation picks up pretty quick. So we're going to be reading from an article on the state case originally when they were getting picked up. I'm going to kind of tell you how some of these guys are tied in. Really quick, I'm going to read you the list of defendants so you kind of know the key players in this. All right, and I'm going to give you their ages. Now, their ages are at the time in this. I'm going to give you their ages in 2010 when they were federally indicted, and then you can kind of do the couple 2-3 year math on what they were back in 2007 when the murders were committed. So, Brent Twist Stallsby, 29 years old. Again, this is the ages in 2010. His wife, we got a husband and wife duo in here. Terry Lynn Peaches Stallsby, 28 years old. Cameron Mojo Frazier, 28 years old. April Flanagan was in her late 20s. I didn't get her exact age. She was in her late 20s. Carl Richard C.C. Carver, 43. And Carrie Christine Wood, 37. Now, Flanagan, and so you have the husband and wife, Brent Stallsby, Terry Stallsby. Charles Cameron Frazier had a thing with April Flanagan. And April Flanagan, I mean, she wasn't ugly. She's this normal-looking gal, pretty gal, works. But again, they get wrapped up and sucked into this world. And these women, I don't know if it's April Flanagan so much, but Terry Lynn Stallsby, these women of the ABT, they're known as Featherwoods. And if you want to be in this life, you got to be down with it. You got to be willing to roll, ride or die, go to the ends of the earth. And you're not going to talk. You're not going to cooperate. But what's kind of messed up, kind of sad about this, is they are property. The guy you're with, he owns you. So what he says goes. If he tells you to jump, you're going to say how high. Literally, that's what it is. Excuse me. So we're going to be reading from an article just a few days after the bodies were discovered. When they got they honed in pretty quick on who was responsible for these killings. There were some witnesses that saw Charles Mojo Frazier's truck in the nearby area. The cops end up hitting his house. They pull them all out. They find Frazier, and in the documentary, you hear him. Now, he's in the interview, right? And he's crying, and he's saying, Dave Mitchamore is my friend, and man, that's my brother, and this and that. To me, and I'm just going to be honest, as being around methamphetamine users in the past, just drug users in general, when they're on a high, when they're really, really up, they're emotional. So hearing him, he just got arrested out of this house. He's probably high. He's probably been using meth. To me, he sounds like he's up. If he was coming down off the drug, now you could be emotional kind of in that sense, but you'd be more down. He seems very up. He's animated. To me, in my experience, that tells me he's still under the influence of the drug. That's just my 2 cents. If you guys know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. That's what I've seen with people, especially when they're under the influence of methamphetamine. So I'm going to read from the headline of this in the Lufkin Daily News. It says, authorities say defendants may be associated with white supremacist gang. Remember, this is early on, so they're trying to figure this out, okay? 26-year-old Terry Stallsby of Lufkin, the co-defendant of Brent Stallsby, was arrested Tuesday morning on a charge of conspiracy to commit capital murder. So they'd already got Brent, now they pick up his wife. Nacogdoches County Sheriff, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. That's a crazy name of a county. But Nacogdoches County Sheriff Thomas Kearse said her interaction in the crime was very similar to that of April Flanagan. Remember, that's the on-again, off-again girlfriend of Charles Mojo Frazier, who was arrested Monday on the same charge. We believe that she assisted in preparing for the murders and attempted to destroy evidence afterwards, he said. The bodies of Dave Mitchamore Jr., and I didn't realize this, Dave was only 21 of Lufkin, and Christie Brown, 27 of Hudson, were found Friday. That's on August 10th, 2017. So Friday, August 10th. So this article is going to be Tuesday is when so over the weekend and into Monday and Tuesday, they're picking some of these guys up. Okay. But I'm reading from Tuesday, which is 4 days, Tuesday, August 14th, 2007. The bodies were found in the Etoy area of the Nacogdoches County. Authorities said both individuals were found with gunshot wounds to the head, and a preliminary autopsy report released confirmed that each died from a shotgun blast. The weapons has not been located. The two initial arrests of Stallsby's husband, Brent, remember, like I gave you the ages. Well, at the time, he was 26, also of Lufkin, and Charles Cameron Frazier, who was also 26, of Nacogdoches, were made Saturday in the Shirley Creek area. Flanagan, that's April Flanagan, was arrested and booked at the Angelina County Jail, where she remained. Kearse said authorities believe that the 4 defendants, as well as the 2 deceased, may have been associated with the Aryan Brotherhood, a primarily prison-based gang. The Aryan Brotherhood, a violent white supremacist group, was known in the 80s for its alleged attacks and murders of inmates and correctional officers throughout the federal and state penal systems, according to FBI website. Both Frazier, that's Cameron Frazier, and Brent Stallsby have a long record of drug-related charges, according to Department of Public Safety records. In 2005, Stallsby was found guilty of possessing a prohibited substance in a correctional facility. That means he had drugs in a jail or a prison. And later, of possession or transport of a chemical with the manufacturer of a controlled substance. Meth. He's cooking meth. Let's just say what it is. Should just say cooking dope. Likewise, Charles Cameron Frazier was found guilty of possession of marijuana in 2002 and delivery of a controlled substance to a minor in 2003. Kress went on to say that authorities are currently looking into whether that affiliation is in any way connected to the killings in Etoli. Kress confirmed that one of the two women described in a statement by an Angelina County motel employee was Stallsby. In that motel's employee's statement, she went on to talk about how she witnessed a woman she identified as April Flanagan, another woman, and a man. So that's going to be Flanagan. And you got Peaches Stallsby, the wife of Brent Stallsby, and that says a man. So that's going to be Brent, his wife, and April Flanagan. And they were attempting to gain access to the room of Dave Mitchamore and Christie Brown that they had rented the day before. She said the three individuals informed her that the couple had been staying there, would not be returning to the room. So that's kind of dumb. You killed these guys, and then you went back to tell the motel employee after you were trying to look into their room and root around. Basically, you look suspicious as hell that, oh, hey, by the way, they won't be back. Kerr said the second woman was identified as Stallsby. Mitchamore's body was located shortly before noon on Friday by Christy Anglin, who was on her way to a lake house off CR 467. She said she saw something in the road as she drove up, but thought one of her friends was playing a joke on her. I called one of the other guys that was supposed to be here and said, quote, that really looks like a body in the road, Anglin said. He said, what are you talking about? So I walked a little further and could tell it was no joke. She found Mitchamore's body laying face down in the middle of the dirt road and immediately telephoned authorities. Upon arriving, first responders located a second body approximately 6 feet west of Mitchamore's. It was Christie Brown. Funeral services for Mitchamore were held Tuesday afternoon. Services for Brown are scheduled for 10 a.m. today at the Caraway Claver Funeral Home in Lufkin. So, now, really quick, why I wanted to read that. Initially, you see, that's only 4 people, and they weren't even sure what was tied in. They weren't even sure what was what. Were they, was this because of the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas? What's Dave Mitchamore's role in this? So far, they have 2 guys that were wrapped up, Charles Cameron Frazier and Brent Stallsby, because remember, they hit, what I found out is they hit the home, they hit a nearby home after witnesses said they saw Charles Cameron Frazier's black Chevy leaving. He was in the area, and anyway, the officers go to this home, so that's where they pick up Frazier, Stallsby. They tie it all in. So basically, they get the 2 dudes, their 2 girlfriends. They got the motel employee talking about how they were rooting around. So that takes us to the case. Kind of winds its way through the court. Okay, that takes us to 2010. Okay, and we're going to read from this. All right. This is after a lot of investigating, and they realize, holy crap, this is with the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. This becomes a federal indictment with a racketeering level case because you've got guns, you've got drugs, and murder. All right? So an indictment comes down February 1st, 2010. 5 people from Lufkin, Texas are among 6 federally indicted in connection with 2 Aryan Brotherhood-linked slangs in Etoli in 2007, according to a U.S. Attorney's Office press conference that was held Monday afternoon in Nacogdoches. This is all in February 2010. The indictment alleges Aryan member David Clyde Mitchamore Jr., a.k.a. Super Dave, and his girlfriend, Christie Rochelle Brown, were murdered by Charles Cameron Frazier, a.k.a. Mojo, and Brent Nicholas Stallsby, a.k.a. Twist. And this is why. This is what they didn't know in that article in 2007. Because Mitchamore failed to repay an outstanding drug debt he allegedly owed the general, Carl Richard C.C. Carver, an alleged general in the Aryan Brotherhood. Both bodies were discovered shot through the head in Etoli near the Sam Rayburn Reservoir, August. Now, this is where it's different, okay? That's where there was a typo. It says August 20th. They were discovered August 10th, 2007. Because remember, that article that I just read was August 14th. Frazier and Stallsby allegedly killed Brown after shooting her boyfriend because they didn't want to leave any witnesses, according to investigators. Now, it later came out, specific details, okay? Remember, Charles Cameron Frazier, he's very, very close friends with Super Dave Mitchamore. So apparently they're out, they're shooting a shotgun with the whole intention of they're going to murder Dave, yada, yada, yada. Now, there was some conflicting where Christie Brown wasn't supposed to actually be there. It was just supposed to be Dave Mitchamore. So, hey, we're going to go up and party. Let's go. Well, Christie Brown insisted that, hey, I want to go, hey, I want to go with my boyfriend. I want to go hang out with you guys. Come on, let's go. And she kind of signed her own death warrant right there, If that's true, I don't know. I kind of feel like they weren't too upset to take her out anyway because Charles Cameron Frazier would talk about in the interview how he didn't like her. He said because, she didn't treat Dave right. Who knows? They were friends. Maybe there's a little bit of jealousy there. I have a hard time believing that Charles Cameron Frazier really cared how Christie Brown treated Dave. I think there was more to it. I think when there's a lot of drug use, especially methamphetamine use, from experience, from people I know, a lot of paranoia creeps in, a lot of questioning creeps in, and you've got very violent people, people that are trying to prove a point, people that are gang members, people that are always trying to climb the ranks, and if they can get over on somebody, they're going to get over on somebody. So order comes down. Dave Mitchamore is supposed to repay a drug debt from Carver. Don't know if Dave had no intention of paying Carver, but regardless, Carver wasn't getting his money in the timely manner, in the time that he thought was reasonable. And in that case, it becomes a disrespect thing. It becomes, well, why aren't you paying me? And who knows? He might have saw Dave throwing some money around. He might have saw Dave go buy something. And, if you've ever been owed money before and you see that person out spending or splurging or taking a trip, you're going to feel some type of way about that. Now, I don't know if that happened, but something happened. Something finally switched over in Carver's head where he said, a beat down, whatever, isn't enough. We need to murder him. Just shows you the level of violence. And again, I keep going back to it, but when you are talking about a large amount of drugs being consumed daily, when you are talking about weapons and people that believe they are above the law and that killing and beatings and all that is just kind of a way of life, this stuff happens more often than not. And I will say this about the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. The Mexican Mafia is close. Nuestra Familia, kind of. The Mexican Mafia is just, this is just my experience making content, reading articles, making videos. These two, with the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas and the Mexican Mafia, these two seem to be some of the most where I've seen them take their own out a lot. Like so many of these stories, they are killing others, but they're killing themselves. Like the documentary on HBO, there's nothing about killing a race or a Hispanic person or a black person. It's all about killing their own. And same thing here with Super Dave and Christie Brown. So anyway, they're up shooting. At one point, Charles Cameron Frazier, Mojo, has the shotgun. He cannot do it. He cannot pull the trigger on his best friend. Because remember, they are like best friends. He cannot do it. So Stansby steps up and says, give me the gun. Give me the gun. Brent Nicholas Stansby Twist says, give me the gun. Point blank, not point blank, but not very far away, headshot with a shotgun. Charles Cameron Frazier takes the gun, headshot, shotgun, Christie Brown dead, slumped over. They leave the area. They get arrested within a few days. We're all kind of wrapped up in this. Now, again, in the beginning, they did not know that Charles C.C. Carver played a point in this. It took the cooperation with April Flanagan, with Charles Cameron Frazier begins talking, and Charles Cameron Frazier actually in his interrogation, he's the one that finally says this is the reason he was killed, and he kind of blames, and he's actually verbally, you can tell he's emotional. He's pissed at Carver. He says, I'll testify. You're going to have to help me, but I'll do whatever I got to do to take Carver down. He needs to get his. He needs to pay for this. So that's exactly what ends up happening is over the course of the next couple of years, the feds, the state level, the Texas Rangers, it's a massive, massive joint operation. You've got the ATF, these different counties, the sheriff's office, the Texas Rangers, they work together, the ATF. And because some of these guys, especially at the federal level, some of these guys have been going after these guys for years. So they jump full on in this investigation, and it just starts piecing together. And then that's how you get these 6 defendants, and then you get cooperating witnesses. So initially, this is what they're charged with, all right? Carver is charged with conspiracy to commit murder and murder. Brent Nicholas Stalsby, a.k.a. Twist, conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of carrying a firearm during a crime of violence and being a felon in possession of firearm. Terry Lynn Stalsby, his wife, 2 counts of accessory after the fact. April Nicole Flanagan, conspiracy to commit murder and murder, accessory after the fact. Carrie Christine Wood, conspiracy to commit murder and murder. The sixth person, and that's Frazier, Mojo, is charged with conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of carrying a firearm during a crime of violence, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Talks about how the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas was established in the 80s and the Texas prison system operates inside and outside of the system. The gang moved its focus, and this is important, from white supremacy to criminal activities, according to authorities. Members and associates are often required to follow orders of higher-ranking members against anyone who violates gang rules or poses a threat to the enterprise. And that's really important to remember. And I've watched interviews where guys that have flipped, they go, it ain't even about race. We don't even care about race. We care about green and blue, money. They'll work with African Americans, they'll work with Hispanics, they'll work with whoever. Really, they basically say we are not racist. Yes, it's about our own. Yes, it is about the white race. So in that context, there's some racism, but as far as like, I'll never work with it, money comes before all. Money comes before all. So at the time, they were looking at life in prison, death penalty, all the way down, okay? And it talks about other cases that were going on. It was another murder kidnapping of another Lufkin man who was known among the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. And it just shows you they really do hurt their own. And if they really go by that, if there's any sort of disrespect, if there's any sort of breaking the rules, if there's any thought that you are cooperating, you're done. And what's scary about that is because all of them are on drugs and using meth, those thoughts are going to creep in a lot more than if you were sober. And that's just what's crazy. A lot of them are so hyped up. They've got guns right there on them. That's I don't care what anybody says. That's how this stuff happens. And it just happens. So anyway, case winds its way through the court. It got wrapped up pretty quick. So we're going to talk about their pleas and their sentences and all that. So Charles Cameron Mojo Frazier, he pled guilty January 14th, 2011. He's sentenced to life. He pled guilty January 14th, 2011. He gets a life sentence on June 21st, 2011. And he pleads guilty to a violent crime in aid of racketeering. Charles C.C. Carver pleads guilty January 19th, 2011. He gets a life sentence June 27th, 2011. Again, a violent crime in aid of racketeering. April Flanagan pled guilty April 2010. She gets 15 years of violent crime, aid of racketeering. She began to cooperate. Carrie Christine Wood, who kind of in all this, she played a part in this, but she wasn't as huge of a part as some of these guys and their girlfriends, but she did play a part in it. Carrie Christine Wood, she pled guilty February 2011, sentenced July 14th, 2011 to 10 years violent crime, aid of racketeering. Brent and his wife, Terry Stansby, they pled guilty in January 21st, 2011. Hold on here. Stansby is sentenced to life in prison. Brent Twist Stansby, he gets sentenced to life in prison, in federal prison. Terry Lynn Peaches, she pleads guilty to aiding and abetting. She gets 13 and a half years in federal prison. Absolutely crazy. It's just one of those things, guys. It's just one of those things. You stay out of trouble. You stay out of crap. Stay off of drugs. And I was like, you guys are sitting here going, he's preaching. No, I'm not preaching. But I will say that, it's one of those things where I guarantee you someone like a Super Dave Mitchamore, or even more so his girlfriend, they don't see it happening. Dave was 21 years old. That is young. That is extremely young. And don't get me wrong. He knows what he signed up for. He knows it can happen. But if any of you, I don't know how old you guys are, but when you're 21 and you're running and gunning in the streets, that was me. When I was 21, I was wild. I was using, I was selling, I was running with all kinds of people. And I really can honestly say at 21, I was not thinking about the consequences. Now, I was not out doing this. I was not out toting guns, robbing, or doing anything like that. But I was around gang members. I was around not good people. And I had girlfriends. I had people that were not part of that life. I had girls that, I want to help you, but they like the excitement. You just don't ever think something's going to happen. You just don't. So, it's just crazy. The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, man, these guys have stories for days. I will end it with this. If you are struggling with sobriety, get the help. One day at a time, whatever you have to do to get your kids back, to get your family back, to get yourself back. You got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. I will always say that. Learn to love yourself. You got to leave the past in the past and move forward. You can't change anything. Take one day at a time. Reach out. If you feel like you don't have anybody, I promise you, walk into a meeting, walk into an AA or NA meeting, go to treatment. It's not worth it, man. I always read these stories, and drugs play such a central part in all of this. That is what my channel has grown into. I will always cover these stories because I'm fascinated with them. But the getting help, the sobriety factor has really also been important to me in this and is becoming more and more important. I'm sure some people think I ramble. I do not care. Get the help. So there you guys have it. Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. The murders. August 2007. Super Dave Mitchamore. Christie Brown. I'm going to have another great story for you guys in just a couple days. Much love, much appreciation. Until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.